Hey guys, first Regardsman here, and I'll be talking about Weekly Hard Stratagem number 40 in Space Marine 2 Patch 13. Now, this week is way easier than last week was. We had the double Hellbrutes that were kind of just shredding through people, but this time around we are on Ballistic Engine with the Battlefield Conditions Imperial Fervor, where the Emperor's Shout increases damage dealt for a short time, and Intelligence Lapse, the enemy faction that does not usually appear spawns instead, and Posthumous Proliferation, slain enemies spawn spores or Chaos Skulls depending on the faction, and the final one is Warp Storm, a Psychic Storm periodically hits. Now, this one definitely sends a lot of like random bullshit to just damage you over time. That does kind of suck. So for this one, I did take the Bulwark with a blocked fist because Bulwark is just super tanky. He makes it really easy to like just walk through this one on your first try. So the Bulwark build is what I'll be going over today, but also put in some other builds here for stuff like Vanguard or the Sniper class, because both of those classes also have a pretty easy time dealing with this one, because as long as you have some form of healing or just like a way to avoid obnoxious like random damage effects, that'll make this one go pretty smoothly. And this one is also on Ballistic Engine this week, which is a pretty easy map for the most part, so hopefully this build guide helps you. We're gonna go into that now. Now, this class didn't really receive any major changes this time around, so he is still one of the strongest classes in the entire game, and the Power Fist is still his best in slot weapon in my opinion. Now, for the variant of the Power Fist, I think block weapons are overall the best on the Bulwark currently for a couple reasons. Number one, the zero frame startup of block weapons, these really benefit you with perks like Intimidating Aura. This one says a perfect time parry deals AoE damage within a 5-meter radius, so the cooldown is 5 seconds. This will also function on a perfect block, not just a perfect parry, even though the description doesn't tell you. That was changed back in like patch 8, and because of that, Intimidating Aura is very strong with block weapons, and block weapons also have a 60% range damage reduction buff every time you get a perfect block for 2 seconds, and that stacks very well with your damage reduction perks like Steel Within and your starting HP increase of 30%. Now, the other option here is obviously the Balanced Power Fist. This one is very strong, but when it comes to balanced weapons, I actually think these are way better on the Assault class than the Bulwark, for the first reason being that the Assault class can just animation cancel out of his balanced parry window whenever he wants, because the animation cancel of the Assault with the jump pack dash here, this will function mid parry. The animation cancel on the Bulwark class, this requires you to shield block, and because of that, you are not able to do an animation cancel in the middle of your parry, so you cannot escape the awkward windup of a balanced parry window. They aren't bad on him by any means. I think block is just better for that reason, because he just likes that zero frame startup. Now, for the perk tree on this, I do start with the perk here, Perpetual Strength, moving here into the perk Heavy Preparation. Heavy attack preparation times reduced by 30%. You know, heavy attacks are pretty much all you want on the Power Fist in general, so you always want this perk. A 30% reduction in preparation time is tremendous, and honestly, the top tree practically doesn't exist because of this. Next perk here is Perpetual Strength, up here to Perpetual Strength again. And then I pick up the perk here, Focused Intention. When your health is below 30%, you will take 50% less health damage while preparing heavy attacks. This is another tremendous damage reduction perk. The way that Space Marine 2 works is that below 25% HP in this game, you will get a ramping damage reduction to like absurd levels, and that will stack with the damage reduction from this that goes up to 50% on top of your other damage reduction like the Steel Within perk or Conviction, on top of the fact you have a 30% increase starting HP, which means your effective HP at low HP values is already kind of ridiculous. So a really strong perk for him, and because of that, you are able to trade with the Power Fist very easily, because the way you get HP back on a Power Fist is by charging up your attack, one-shotting the weapon, or excuse me, one-shotting the enemy when you actually let go of your charge attack, even though you took damage during that charge attack, and then you get all your HP back off the execute. So top tier perk, pretty much always pick this up. Next perk here is Tide of Battle. Power wave forward distance increases from 4 to 8 meters. This is actually an increase from 10 to 20 meters, which basically turns your Power Fist into a ranged weapon. This is one of the reasons it is so strong on the Bulwark and Assault, especially, even though it's like, you know, the only class it's on. But for the point of this guide, I'm trying to say that we have only a secondary option, and because of that, having a Power Fist to be a ranged weapon as our primary is super useful in saving ammunition, and you are able to do things like punch Neurothropes and Zoanthropes out of the sky on top of stuff like Enlightened Zangors. So a really good option here, and Tide of Battle is a must pick. Next perk here is Following Blow, down here into the perk Strength of Will. Then I grab the perk here Combo, and the final perk Majora's Slayer for a 10% melee damage buff against Majora's level enemies, because sometimes this helps out with breakpoints. And that's pretty much all there is for the Power Fist. But I will say, the other option you can take here is something like the Block Power Axe. The block power axe is very strong on the Bulwark class as well because you can animation cancel out of your power wave immediately into things like a shield bash or just go back into other attacks, and because of that, his block synergy here is very strong. And honestly, the block power axe in general is a top tier weapon, really only in second place to things like the block power fist. Now for the perk tree on this, it's pretty much the same as all the other builds for the block power axe. You just go full damage with things like Perpetual Strength into Coup de Grace, and then you pick up stuff like Riposte for double overhead damage on a power backstep strike, and then we also go into Tactical Retreat for more power backstep damage. The perk up here, Power Wave, and the final perk, Cleaver, because 10% more damage against Majoris and higher is super valuable for you. And if you really want to take like a Thunder Hammer for whatever reason, I guess you could, but the Thunder Hammer is like the de facto worst weapon on the Bulwark class right now because you lose your shield, and your shield is like the source of your animation cancel and your range blocking, and that's a huge portion of your class's power level. Though, you know, one day I'll probably make a guide for both this and the power sword, but for now, I would stick with the block power fist and the block power axe here, and maybe whatever you want to use. Now, for the secondary option, I do take the Rate of Fire plasma pistol. This is still the best secondary in the game, in my opinion. It has the best CHP recovery, it has a great stagger, pretty shit ammo economy, but it makes up for that with pretty good damage. And even though you do lose out on that ammo economy, the perk tree we set up with this option here does kind of circumvent that a little bit with stuff like Plasma Collection, Efficient Charge, Perpetual Velocity for a shot charge rate, and also Divine Might for more damage down here. So a really strong option in general, though if you want to take like the brand new Bolt Carbine, you could do that. I would set up this way on like any setup, and for the Heavy Bolt Pistol, I'd probably set up something like this or go up here through Discipline, but that's all up to you. That's pretty much all there is for the secondary. Now for the perk tree here, the first perk we take here is Intimidating Aura. A per time parry deals AoE damage in a 5-meter radius. Cooldown is 5 seconds. This is one of the best damage perks on the defense in the entire game, and this will put out around 200 damage per perfect parry. And to put that in perspective, a Sword Warrior on absolute difficulty will have 308 HP, so you're doing over half a warrior's HP with a single perfect parry, which is kind of insane, and also works a perfect block like I mentioned before. So as far as damage goes, you can mop up bosses like the Vortex Beast, Hellbrute, Carnifex just with this perk, so you pretty much always take this on like a top tier build. Though I will say an easier option is Conviction, because stacking Conviction on top of Steel Within, on top of Scramble Targeting, and your starting HP increase, you're practically unkillable, but you do lose a bit of damage. Next perk here is Scramble Targeting. If you're surrounded by 5 or more enemies, you will take 25% less damage from range attacks. This is just a free range damage reduction. Being surrounded by 5 or more enemies happens all the time in the operations and hard strats, and especially Siege. Though I will say, if you want to take Shock and Awe and like emergency countermeasure, you can do that. You will get a lot of damage for free off of this. Armored Contempt is not very strong. Like, the damage put out by this is not very powerful at all. A lot of people think it is, but it's a super overrated perk. But Shock and Awe and Scramble Targeting here, they're the overall best option. Next perk here is Steel Within. When your health's less than 50%, you will take 30% less health damage. This is like the major damage reduction enabler for most builds on the Bulwark class with Intimidating Aura. Without this, you are substantially squishier. It's not to say like you're super squishy, because you do have other options like Focus Restoration to give you armor back, like your starting HP increase of 30% increase here. Yeah, a little redundant, but the point is that Steel Within on top of that base HP increase will make you substantially tankier. And if you're not taking Conviction, I would definitely take this perk, especially if you're fighting Chaos, because they don't give you as many gun strikes for armor reinforcement, and armor reinforcement I'd really only take against Pyramid faction normally. It's like, it's definitely best there. Now as far as defensive advantage goes, this perk is not very strong at all. A 30-second cooldown on a 5-second shock area is pretty shit, and you're better off just taking the 45-second cooldown emergency countermeasure and stacking that with Shock and Awe, which is much better, and you're way less squishy. Next perk here is Focus Restoration. Every 30 seconds, all team members automatically restore 1 armor segment. This is a super underrated perk in Space Marine 2. 1 armor to your entire team every 30 seconds comes out to so much free damage reduction. Armor in Space Marine 2 will damage cap all the time against melee attacks. So what I mean by that is any melee attack in Space Marine 2 will do 0 damage if you have any amount of armor left, and that includes bosses. So 1 armor segment to a tactical, that's the difference between them losing like 70% of their HP and getting knocked over, or especially a Tech Marine, and just living. So a really powerful perk, and also helps you out as well. Next perk here is Purity of Purpose. The banner deals damage over time to enemies with zero effect. This perk will put out a ton of free damage for you. This will wipe out Minoris, deal significant damage to Majoris, Extremis, and even bosses. And as far as the rest of this column is concerned, Rapid Regeneration is okay. The banner restores armor 300% faster, but a duration is reduced by 10%, or excuse me, not 10%, 10 seconds, which actually cuts your banner time in half. And cutting your banner time in half, guys, that shit sucks. So the banner effect of like armor restoration being faster, that's pretty good for like range attacks, but you're just way better off with Purity of Purpose, because this one just puts out damage for free on top of like giving you the full benefit of your normal banner. Next perk here is Invigorating Icon. When the banner is activated, all team members regain maximum contested health, but it recharges 50% slower. This perk is the best for like 99% of players. Okay, Concussive Force is technically more damage on the Shield Bash, but this is the best DPS build for the Bulwark in the entire game. But for like, you know, practical gameplay, I would just say take the healing perk. You know, a 50% slower recharge may kind of suck to play with, but it is a very powerful perk option. You know, if you really don't want the healing, you just want to use your banner and you don't really feel comfortable with the Shield Bash animation canceled, you can just take Glory Shield, because this perk is also great. Next perk here is Merciless Resolve. After a Shield Bash, Shield Rush, or Thunderhammer Pommel Smash, melee damage increases by 15%, you don't lose control from heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. This just gives you no knockback for free on just shield bashing the air. You pretty much take this on every build. Rejuvenating effect is pretty good, and so is Inspiration. It's just this one is definitely better. If you really don't want to take this perk, if you want that like a free revive on a banner, you just take Armor Advance to give you back like all of your no knockback when you have armor remaining, because this is also a very strong pick. And speaking of your signature perks, we are going to go to the next one here, which is Defensive Mastery. A perfect time parry or block instantly incapacitates a Majoris or Extremis level enemy. The cooldown is 90 seconds. In my opinion, this is the best signature perk currently for the Bulwark. Being able to one-shot an Extremis in the middle of a boss fight is life-saving. This perk sounds way worse than it actually is, because in practice, it just removes threats for you automatically for free. The only negative perk interaction here is that if you get the trigger of this on top of an Intimidating Aura trigger, you'll just straight up one-shot the guy with no option to execute the Extremis or Majoris. That can lose you HP sometimes, but losing HP is also not too bad on the Bulwark class because you're so damn tanky. So for the most part, this definitely saves your life and saves you a ton of time in killing bosses and just wiping out free Extremis spawns. Now, alternatively, you could take Armor Advance or Emergency Countermeasure. If you take this one, I would stack it with Shock and Awe, because this 25% damage buff is very noticeable. And also, this is pretty much like lets you be a Squid Inking with like an Emergency Countermeasure for a Shock Nade at your, you know, place of origin. You know what I'm saying? Point is, free Shock Nade, and those are my opinions on the Signature perk. Now, for the Prestige perk options, I do take Resilience first, Medicate Singers for 40% more HP. You know, for operations and hard strats, I really don't think you need Auxiliary Reload. You're not getting a ton back from this anyways, and the amount of Extremis in the operations is not low, it's just not high enough that like I really feel like I want this on a super meta build, but if you want to take this, you definitely can. Next perk, which I would take all the time, is Overcharge. Health and charge attack damage increases by 20%. This just buffs your damage on your thrust jab, on your power fist relentlessly. It is ridiculous how awesome this perk actually is. It's a 20% multiplicative melee damage buff to the heaviest hitting attacks on both the power axe and power fist. You just take this all the time, especially since it's in a prestige perk tree. Final perks here are Powerful Shot for range damage increase of 20%, and Masterful Defense for ability charge being restored by 1% for every blocked range attack. With this perk, you will pretty much get a banner back almost entirely just off of a single minigun Terminator. A really powerful option for you, so if you have a shield, you just take this perk. So first up, we have the Melter Rifle. Now, the Melter Rifle is still, in my opinion, the overall best option on the Vanguard. Other great options include stuff like the Headshot Multiplier version on the Oculus, or the Automatic Carbine variant built like this. They're all pretty good on him, or even the Heroic Instigator is quite strong. But the reason I prefer the Melter Rifle is that, number one, this one has great stagger, great healing, and great armor regen, on top of the fact that it also solves the horrific ammo economy of this class with perks like Decisive Reload. Performing a finisher on a Majoris or higher enemy with this weapon restores ammo by 1. This will trigger on any finisher as long as your Melter Rifle is equipped, so really easy to pull off. So as long as you do that, make sure to swap to your Melta during any finisher on a Majoris or higher, and you will get 1 ammunition back. That is super valuable, and actually comes out to way more than you'd expect. Now, the next perk here is Rapid Health. When your health is below 30%, killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores health by 10%. This is a very powerful perk that gets you above those like one-shot breakpoints at low HP, and also very easy to pull off on a melter rifle because it's a flippin' melter rifle. So next thing here is Trick Shot, killing 5 enemies with one shot, restores 1 armor segment. The cooldown is 30 seconds. Getting armor back for one-shotting 5 guys on a melter rifle for hard strats and operations is very easy to do because cultists will die in one shot, Hormagaunts die in one shot, Zangors that don't have shields will die in one shot, and also stuff like Spore Mines, so really easy to trigger this on a 30-second cooldown. Next perk here is Great Might, over here into the perk Divine Might for 10% damage increase, and then I pick up the perk Extended Magazine into the perk here First Shot, and then the final 2 perks are Retaliation for 25% more damage on a perk time dodge, and the final perk is Perpetual Fire for a fire rate increase of 10%. That's really all you need to build for like any variant of the Melter Rifle. Now as far as variants for the Melter Rifle are concerned though, I do take the range version over the magazine capacity version on the operations mode, and mainly because your ammo economy is pretty strong on this, like I mentioned before, and you really do not need to like take the extra magazine capacity and stuff like that here, because this one actually has a way better damage fall off than this one does, and because of that you're gonna have an easier time against things like shield Zangors, or excuse me, the floating Zangors, like Zangor Enlightened, and also stuff like Zoanthropes, which can get pulverized by this actually fairly easily. And that's pretty much all there is for the primary weapon here. Now for our secondary weapon, I do take the Retribution's Request Heroic Heavy Bolt Pistol. The main reason we take this is because the Vanguard can set up gunstrike opportunities to trigger perk effects like Tactical Prowess by basically using the power axe to parry an enemy, gunstrike them off the power wave, and immediately put them into that breakpoint range so we can grapple onto them and trigger this perk effect we'll get into later on top of Zone of Impact. So that's why I do prefer this one, because currently this has the highest gunstrike damage on Vanguard. And for the perk tree here, we do pick up the perk Divine Might first, all the way down the bottom tree into things like Death Strike, which says after killing a Majoris or higher in melee combat, you will deal 25% more damage for 10 seconds. This will trigger off of a melee finisher, not just a melee kill, so keep that in mind. All you have to do to make sure this actually happens is make sure your weapon is equipped. And the only downside here, or negative synergy, is that to trigger this perk effect, you can't swap off your gun, and you have to have the gun equipped, which means you are not going to be able to get the perk trigger of Decisive Reload here simultaneously, so you have to choose there. So like that does kind of suck, but still this buff is very strong. Next perk here is Great Might, over here into the perk Strong Start, and the final perk here before we get into the top row is Able Damage. After using class ability, damage increases by 20% for 10 seconds. This perk effect is very strong in both the Vanguard and Assault class because you actually use your class ability all the time on these guys. They have great CDR perks like Combat Readiness, Inner Fire, and stuff like that, and that allows you to just get way more triggers off of this perk effect than say a Tactical does, so I definitely pick it up here. Next perk here is Home Precision for a 50% reduction in weapon spread while hip firing, and then we go up here into Gunstrike Reload, and the final perk here, Tactical Precision, which says headshots deal 20% more damage, and non-headshot damage decreases by 10%, because headshot damage is still the best overall option on this weapon. And also, the heroic perk effect here is called No Help Is Coming, for those of you who are unaware. This one says shooting an enemy completes Scream status effect, stops with point reinforcements, and headshots will kill in one shot. So this actually saves you a lot of ammo on Absolute and above, because really in this game, whenever you stop a reinforcement calling enemy on Absolute or like lethal difficulty and hard strats, they will go enraged, and this will kind of like circumvent that and save you not only an entire horde, but also just save you a full heal from an enraged enemy. So a really good perk effect. Now for the melee weapon, you actually have a couple options here. So number one, the Balanced Power Axe. This one is very strong, and the reason I like this on the Vanguard in general is because the Power Axe, the power backstep of this weapon, it will move you out of range to actually grapnel back into an enemy with your grapnel launcher. The grapnel launcher targeting has a 10-meter range requirement, which feels awful in this game. This one does kind of help mitigate that a bit, and even though you can still do that with a block axe, the balanced weapon allows you to get your gun strike as well, which can trigger that breakpoint for a 33% tactical prowess finisher we'll get into later. So just keep that in mind. Both the block, balance, fencing, they can all do that. It's just like up to you which one you prefer. And as far as the balance and block version are concerned, I would set them up this way, with Perpetual Strength first, maybe here into the perk Coup de Grace. The last strike of a light combo deals 25% more damage. Then I pick up the perk here, Perpetual Strength, and Perpetual Strength again. Moving here into the perk Counterattack. The first light attack within 5 seconds after a perfect parry or perfect block deals 25% more damage. Then we go down here into the perk Riposte. Overhead strike damage after performing a power backstep is doubled. So a neat effect of the power axe is that you can use your power backstep and like move your camera to overhead strike with the double riposte damage on a different enemy instead. So you actually have a lot of opportunities to use this. So really strong perk effect, and a double damage on your overhead is very strong. And the next perk here is Hard Target. Moving here to the perk Tactical Retreat. Power Backstep deals 25% more damage. This helps you hit breakpoints, like actually get that 33% HP on an enemy for your tactical prowess trigger, so really good here. And then we go up here into the perk Power Wave. Power Backstep Wave damages more enemies. This one is just a straight buff to your Power Wave. It's going to hit more enemies, and also in patch 13, they did fix the Power Wave to hit more enemies like it was supposed to do anyway, so this perk is even better. Next perk here is Cleaver for a 10% buff against Majora's and higher enemies, and that's pretty much all there is for the Power Axe. Now, alternatively, you could pick up the Chain Sword and build it like this on like the new White Scars variant, or the block version, like really any one you want, and the Argent Edge is still a very potent effect on this class as well. It's just that the Block Axe and Balance Axe, these ones do the most damage, and that Power Backstep movement, that does help you the most as a Vanguard with like class synergy. Now, for the fencing option on the Power Axe, you can set up a little bit differently. The only major change I would make here is going down the top tree like this to pick up things like Power Strike, because this is just a very potent effect on this class in general. You also pick up like things like Endless Slash, but this one says Gun Strike from Power Stance deals 20% more damage. This just gives you more gun strike damage, and the actual damage of your Power Axe here on the fencing version is not that strong, so having this breakpoint here can definitely help you out sometimes on like harder to hit enemies and trigger this 33% threshold. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that, and that's pretty much all there is for the Power Axe tree. Now for our perk tree selection on the Vanguard class here, we do take the perk Upper Hand first. After a perfect time parry, block, or dodge, you do not lose control of heavy hits, and you cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. No knockback in Space Marine 2 will just save your life. The Vanguard is no different, and having this will work for gun strikes. It'll work for things like light attacks on any enemy. And if you're unaware of how no knockback works in Space Marine 2, any attack that would knock you over will only stagger you, and any attack that would stagger you will do nothing instead. So a really powerful effect to prevent stun locks, and also the perks in this column kind of suck. Like Melee Mastery, this perk effect is not remotely as strong as it should be. It's not a multiplicative buff like it's supposed to be. This one is really closer to like a 10% buff on your standard issue weapon. And the perk up here, Moving Target, killing an enemy from a distance of more than 30 meters restores ability charge by 10%. A 30-meter distance requirement sucks, so just pick this perk up instead. Next perk here is Conviction. When your armor is fully depleted, you will take 25% less health damage for 10 seconds. A 25% health damage reduction is incredible in Space Marine 2, and this will make you very tanky on this class because you can stack this with perk effects over here, like Thrill of the Fight, for another 20% health damage reduction for a 45% total, which is really strong. Like, that's a pretty substantial amount of damage reduction, and this class already has a ton of armor regen down here with stuff like Launch Restoration and Restoration. So looping back into this perk on Armor Break is really easy to do, and you also have a 15% starting HP increase here too, so a 45% HP damage reduction on top of that is a very potent effect. Now the next perk we take here is Consecutive Execution. Killing 7 enemies in rapid succession restores equipment charge by 1. The cooldown is 90 seconds. Now equipment recharge in Space Marine 2 is just a god tier effect. 90-second Melt-A-Bombs, 90-second Crack Grenades, it does not matter. These things can save your games in any game mode, so you pretty much always pick this perk effect up. And the next perk here is Unmasked Zeal. Melee finishers of Extremis or Terminus level enemies additionally restore health by 30% for any team member. This is just the best overall perk for like 99% of players, in my opinion. Healing is just a really powerful effect for newer players and experienced players. And Inner Fire is also a very strong perk effect for CDR, but like when it comes to the majority of the player base, I think you should just take this perk. I think you'll feel way better using this one, and for the most part, it'll make your games go way smoother on like hard strats, siege mode, and operations. Next perk here is Restless Fortitude. After a diving kick, you take 40% less range damage for 10 seconds. This is a very strong perk. You know, a 40% range damage reduction here is really nice to have, but I will say the entire column here is pretty decent. Like Shockwave can clear out Spore Mines, and the Bramble collateral damage will help you just deal more direct damage to enemies, and also the Grapnel Launcher Diving Kick. This will scale up with difficulty, so this one also benefits from that, though I do kind of prefer Restless Fortitude just because it's a catch-all for like both Chaos and Tyranids. And also, this perk will trigger off of grapnel finishers, so it's even better with the perk combo we'll get into in a second. Next perk here is Zone of Impact. Performing a finisher with the grapnel launcher deals damage to nearby enemies. Now, this perk, the description does not properly like express how much damage you actually do. This one will chunk Majora's HP in like an AoE zone. It is a super powerful option on the Vanguard. By far like the fundamental perk combo for this class, because it takes Zone of Impact, you take the perk here, Tactical Prowess, that says Grapnel Launcher can activate a finisher not only on incapacitated enemies, but also on those who have less than 33% health, except Terminus level, and performing a finisher with the Grapnel Launcher restores its charge. So, really good perk combo with this, because you kind of see like the whole flow chart here, where you get a guy low, you grapple to them, you trigger the AoE, you get all the guys around him low, you grapple to those guys, and then you trigger this perk, and you get another AoE over and over and over again. In fact, this is not only like the best horde clear on this class outside of Melt-A-Bomb spam, it is also like the best boss damage at times for certain scenarios, so definitely pick this up. If you're going for like a top tier Vanguard build, this is just the only like right option in my opinion. There are also like good perks down here like Tenacity, and also Tip of the Spear is okay, but Zone of Impact is just kind of in a league of its own. Next perk here is Thrill of the Fight. After a per time parry, block, or dodge, you will take 20% less health damage for 5 seconds. This is a free damage reduction in my opinion. This will trigger on every single defensive mechanic in the game, parry, block, and dodge, and because of that, a 20% health damage reduction is going off all the time. And also, unlike a lot of the other perk effects in Space Marine 2, this one will trigger over and over, even if the duration is not up yet. What I mean by that is, if you have 3 seconds of the 5 seconds left, and you get another perfect parry or block, you will trigger this again for the full 5 seconds. So really easy to keep up the entire time. Next perk here you can take though is Combat Readiness. Grapnel Launcher recharges 20% faster, because if you are taking the healing perk here, this one can help you get back those grapnels a bit faster if you like miss Tactical Prowess for whatever reason. And that's pretty much all there is for the main perk tree here. Now for our Prestige perk list, I do take Battlefield Awareness first. If a target is within 8 meters, you'll deal 10% more range damage. Moving here into the perk Fortitude for health increase of 15%. And then we pick up the perk here, Launch Restoration. Using the grapple launcher restores an armor segment. This perk is like super underrated sometimes. This does so much work for you, because any amount of armor remaining in Space Marine 2 will reduce all incoming melee damage to 0, even from bosses, and because of that, getting 1 armor back while grappling into like a Carnifex, that means that they just can't do any damage to you directly to your HP on their next attack in melee, which is a pretty powerful option. And also, armor will benefit from range damage reduction perks, which means you're going in, you're triggering the armor restoration here, and you're also triggering the perk here for 40% range damage reduction, which is incredible. So like, you're tankier against Rubric Marines, you're tankier against Devourers and stuff like that, and melee enemies can't do any damage to you for their first attack no matter what. So definitely pick this up all the time. Next perk here is Restoration. Killing 7 enemies rapid session restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. This one is just free armor regen on a cooldown. I mean, it's not as good as Launch Restoration in my opinion, so if you want to swap this out for like Indomitable Spirit or Well Equipped, you could, but more armor is always better in my opinion, so I picked this one up as well. This build is mainly going for hip fire on the Instigator and horde clear off of things like the Inferno Pistol and our Bombs of Pattern of Excellence, and to achieve our laser beam hip fire, we will be taking things like Dexterous Hands and the perk here Precision Targeting on top of the perk in our weapon perk tree, which is of course Home Precision. Equipped weapons maximum spread decreases by 50% when firing without aiming. Now, this perk makes your gun a laser beam on the hip fire. You can like just shoot guys off the hip fire from a mile away. Super fun option. It makes this gun feel pretty damn good, and this weapon's already pretty strong on the sniper anyways. Now, for the rest of the perk tree here, you have a couple options. Now, I go down the bottom row first for extended magazine. Magazine size increases by 15% of the maximum. This will give us 5 more shots in our magazine and 5 more shots with the perk over here, Targeted Shot. That is enough in your camo cloak to one burst a Majora's Rubric Marine or like the other ranged Tyranid warriors like a Venom Cannon. So pretty good for that. And also more ammo is just pretty nice off of things like Adamant Restoration here, or Reload Restoration I should say, which is after reloading your ammo reserve restored by 50% of the number of enemies hit, cannot exceed maximum ammo capacity. So I do prefer the bottom row, but if you want more damage you can go up here for like Efficient Hunter and the perk here Headhunter. Now the next perk I take here is Divine Might, moving up here into the perk Fast Reload. This weapon reloads 10% faster. We mainly go here so we can pick up the much better perk, which is Finisher Reload. After a finisher of the equipped weapon instantaneously reloads. This is a super nice perk effect when you're using this gun and you actually just want to like run around and just fire all the time and you don't have the perk here Efficient Readiness. This is a super nice option, just have your weapon topped off all the time. Next perk here is Recoupment. Killing a Majora's or higher enemy with a headshot of this weapon restores an armor segment. The cooldown is 15 seconds. Getting one armor back on the headshot is super damn useful in hard strats and the operations mode, so we're taking that today. And we also pick this up so we can move into the next perk here, which is very strong, which is Tactical Precision. Headshots will deal 20% more damage, non-headshot damage decreases by 10%. On the sniper class especially, you pretty much always want headshot damage because not only do you have perks in your perk tree like Marksmanship for more headshot damage, you also have things in your perk tree like your base starting perk for a starting perk increase of 10% for your headshot damage. So really important, just like building the headshot perks in my opinion. Now the next perk here is Headhunter, down here into the perk Great Might. Then we pick up the perk here Home Precision for that laser beam hipfire, and that's pretty much all there is for the perk tree setup here. Now I will say, if you want to skip Headhunter here and you want to go down here for the perk Cleaving Fire instead, you can do 75% damage on this build with the perk Block Break on a blocking enemy. That is actually pretty strong on this gun. It does make it pretty easy to just like blow through the Tyranid warriors that are using their sword arms, and because of that, if you want to take that perk instead, you definitely can. I just prefer the option up here instead for headshot damage. And that's pretty much all there is for this gun. Now for our secondary here, I do take the Inferno Pistol. Now the Inferno Pistol is a really nice complement to the Instigator here because our Horde Clear is not like super strong on this build without things like a Melt the Bomb spam off this perk or an Inferno Pistol to clean up Hormigons, and being able to trigger your armor regen off of Trick Shot and stuff like that. It's just pretty valuable on this build in my opinion. Now the variant I pick here is the ammo capacity magazine version. If you want to take the rate of fire version, you can also do that. That is up to you. I just prefer more overall ammo on this build because I do want to get more triggers off of things like Versatile Precision. Now for the perk tree here, I do take the perk Perpetual Range first, moving here into the perk Brace Reload. And then we pick up Perpetual Range again, the perk here Great Might, moving into Increased Capacity, Adamant Restoration, Extra Shot, and Trick Shot. And that's pretty much all there is for this build. And if you take the rate of fire one, I would also just build it the same way. But you know, you could go up top if you really want to. Now for the melee weapon, we are not building for melee damage at all today, so we're taking the Argent Edge. This has the heroic perk effect down here, Scathing Retort. The riposte window is shorter, but each perfect parry damages and staggers the enemy. Now, when it says stagger the enemy, that means you get a gun strike on every parry no matter what. There are multiple combo chains in Space Marine 2 that will not give you a perfect parry gun strike opportunity on the first one. They have like a set breakpoint, so for example, a triple Ravener combo, only the final hit of that will usually give you a gun strike. With this perk, you'll get the gun strike off the first parry. So super good for preventing stun locks, and also just great for like triggering perk effects like we have in our Prestige perk tree with Exacting Focus for 20% more range damage on a gun strike. So a really nice option there. Now for the perk tree, it doesn't matter too much on this build because you're mainly using this weapon for the fencing parry window, or excuse me, like the stagger here really. And the perk tree option I took is just Perpetual Strength, Kinetic Energy into the perk Perpetual Strength again. Then I pick up the perk here Heavy Onslaught, Reeling Blow, Shadow Stab, Tide of Battle, Shoulder Bash, and Terminus Slayer, and that's pretty much all there is for our melee selection and our overall weapon selection. Now for the Sniper's perk tree, I do start off with the perk here, Block Break first. Shots will penetrate enemy block stances, dealing 50% of the usual damage. Now, normally I take Melee Mastery for a 20% multiplicative melee damage buff against Majora's and higher enemies, but on this build, we really do prefer Block Break because our Argent Edge, we're not really using this for melee damage out of things like Hormigons anyways, so having Block Break, being able to shoot through Biovore plates, being able to shoot through Shield Zangors, and of course the Bone Sword Warriors, that is really useful for us, and you'll actually nuke them down pretty quick. Next perk here is Vantage Point. Remaining stationary for 2 seconds increases your ranged weapons damage by 20%. Now, because they buffed the Sniper Camo Cloak base cooldown to be 90 seconds instead of 125 seconds, you can actually trigger this perk after firing immediately with Lingering Concealment for a 2-second lingering duration on your Camo Cloak, and your Camo Cloak will pretty much come back immediately to do it again. You don't have to move much at all, and Vantage Point is pretty strong because sitting in one spot now is pretty easy. Next perk here is Dexterous Hands. Bolt carbines reload 20% faster and their weapon spread and recoil reduced by 15%. This is the only perk in this column that does anything for us, so definitely pick it up. And the next perk here is, of course, the perk Precision Targeting. Weapon spread is reduced by 25%, and the range damage you do against Extremis and Terminus level enemies is increased by 15% for all team members. Now, this buffs up boss damage for your teammates, but also the weapon spread reduction here, that makes your gun significantly better. With the buffed Camo Cloak cooldown of 90 seconds, you don't actually need to take perks down here like Squad Renewal or Renewal anymore. You can actually just like cycle into your Camo Cloak off Lingering Concealment pretty easily because the base cooldown is really not that bad anymore, and that opens you up to take these team perks here and stuff like Purification on top of that, which is what we'll be doing today. Now, this one says manually activating Camo Cloak removes negative status effects and restores all contested health. This is a god tier perk on the sniper class, especially for the new operation, because you can Camo Cloak cancel and just get rid of your status effect and like the poison swamp whenever you want. A pretty fun option here, though I will say you can really take whatever you want on this column here if you feel comfortable with that. This is just the safest option, and vice versa here. If you want to take marksmanship or squad renewal, you could do that. You will just lose a bit of your weapon spread off of this perk. Next perk here is Targeted Shot. The first range attack that breaks Camo Cloak deals 75% more damage. Now, back in patch 11, they actually buffed up this perk to have a lingering duration that is long enough to get the full damage effect on a single burst of your 5-round burst here, so pretty good for this build especially. And next perk here is Lingering Concealment. After performing an attack that breaks Camo Cloak, you remain hidden for 2 seconds. Now, this perk is significantly stronger with that 90-second base cooldown on your Camo Cloak because any shot from your bolt weapons like an Instigator Carbine will break the Camo Cloak immediately, and because of that, you will be in that 2-second lingering duration, and your Camo Cloak recharge will come back pretty much immediately after, which is super strong. You can cycle back into your Camo Cloak very easily from stealth because of that, so you definitely want this perk on this build. Final perk here is Pattern of Excellence, performing 3 consecutive headshots restores equipment charged by 1. The cooldown is 30 seconds. Now, this is the main source of equipment regen on this class in general, and really the only source here, because 30-second melt-bombs, shock nades, cracks, pyroblaster canisters, those will all solve problems for you all on their own. Equipment just wins games, in this game, and for that reason, you pretty much always pick up this perk. And also just say, on this build especially, since we don't have like a Power Gladius and stuff, being able to like auto remove a Terminator or something from a boss fight with a melt-bomb, that is invaluable, so definitely grab this. And also getting the 3 consecutive headshots, every single shot from the burst fire of this heroic perk effect will count as an individual shot for the effects of this perk, so very easy to trigger. Now, for the prestige perk options here, I do take Emperor's Race first. When Camo Cloak activates, you become invulnerable to damage for 2 seconds. Now, invulnerability in Space Marine 2 will count for both knockback and damage, and because of that, this gives you a ridiculous amount of utility. You pretty much always pick this up. This is an S tier perk for sure, like one of the best in the whole game. Next perk here is Versatile Precision. Performing a kill with your secondary weapon restores 15% of your primary weapon's ammo. Cooldown is 15 seconds. This just solves the ammo economy of the sniper class all on its own. You pretty much always grab this because as long as you are not using the heroic bolt sniper, it will benefit your primary weapon. Final perks here are Conviction for a 25% health damage reduction for 15 seconds on armor break, because this perk makes the sniper significantly tanky. In fact, this perk alone is why he is so much tankier than say a Tech Marine, because Tech Marine can get nuked very easily, and Sniper has this HP damage reduction for 15 seconds, which is very powerful. God tier perk, you pretty much always pick up these 3. Final perk here is Exacting Focus. After a gun strike, you will deal 20% more range damage for 10 seconds here. This is very easy to trigger on any build ever, pretty much. The Argent Edge especially, though, is super strong for this, and a 20% buff, that is basically free. And that's pretty much all there is for this Heroic Instigator build, guys. This one is really easy to run through on both Chaos and Tyranids. Purification is a super strong perk effect. The base cooldown buff they didn't like patch 12.2, it just made the Sniper significantly better overall, and really opened up some build variety for him. If you want an even easier time, you could take Squad Renewal on top of this, and that'll make your life even, like, you know, that much easier. And that's pretty much all there is for this one, guys. Hopefully this build guide helped you, and if you like content like this, subscribe for more. If you want to watch me live to ask me questions about the game or just come hang out, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description, and also have a link to my community Discord. And as always, thank you for watching, take it easy, bye. Alright, so here we are on the new weekly with Warp Storm, Posthumous Proliferation, Intelligence Lap, and Imperial Fervor. Now for this one, we're just taking the historically most broken Bulwark build in the entire game, with the block Power Fist to just walk around and one-shot basically everything. I mean, you can take a Neo Volkite on this as well if you wanted to, just because that will handle a lot of the obnoxious little skulls and things like that, but for the most part, this build's pretty cracked. This is like the easiest carry build on Earth for 99% of weeklies, so I usually do recommend this one. Like, if a viewer were to ask me, okay, can you carry me through a weekly? I'm like, 9 times out of 10, this is the build I would take, because it takes basically the least amount of effort from you.
Advance when it is clear.
And also right now there's a defensive mastery bug to one-shot everything on every single trigger, so if that is not fixed tomorrow, or like at the time of this weekly at some point in the next week or so, you can just take this build the entire time and one-shot everything like that. So this is quite literally a Primarch level build in this class at the moment. And even without that, it's still incredibly potent.
Master at my location. Survey the terrain while you can. Prepare for low visibility.
Now, I do fencing weapons for this feature. On this build, you probably don't want a fencing weapon. The fencing Power Fist especially loses out a lot of breakpoints. And if you are going to use a fencing weapon on the Power Fist, excuse me, definitely take the heroic one. Or Power Fist is pretty good.
Lieutenant Titus.
Who has Power Fist just this class? No, Assault also has Power Fist.
Activate the Quartermaster's console and wake the machine spirit. Instructed to load the implosive warhead onto the train and assist it when necessary.
Alright, well.
One death is insufficient penalty for your heresy. Grenade release! Execute that one. Let them summon aid. A dark path. Our enemy brings forth more of its foul kind.
Look how tanky you are. Even with all the skulls around, you just do not care on this class. God damn.
Sorcery reigns in glorious presence. Your heresy. We require a Nova Cannon implosive warhead to be loaded on the train. The Emperor's grace might. For the Imperium!
So awkward seeing Chaos guys on this map. Just be careful because when the skulls spawn out, they just kind of like pop out of nowhere. Say that. I mean, obviously, but those skulls are pretty obnoxious on this one. Crunch.
We have the warhead on the move, Lieutenant. Good. Escort the payload to the train.
Brothers, the blueprints say we can utilize it. May you find no rest in the darkness.
See, we killed him so excessively that it didn't even matter. Alright, let's go up top. The fuck? My sniper died, 2 spore. Awesome. Now, when you're playing with bots in this game, bots will always res you pretty much no matter what. And because of that, if you get like a single stim, you can turn that into multiple lives very easily. If you get a Guardian Relic, it'll be easier. And on the Bulwark especially, that one stim's a mortal wound clear every time with a bigger icon, so definitely helpful. Alright, boss fight. See, the block fist actually shits on these guys. We say now, but well, if he actually decides to attack us, that'd be helpful. Or, you know, like a proper attack. We'll get there one day. We'll get there one day. There's a lot of random shit to blow you up on this one, though, so that is a little obnoxious. I might use the Melt the Bomb over on that sorcerer. We'll see. Alright. Now, one punch from that uncharged will remove... Oh, I don't want that. My poor sniper. That's a lot of AoEs being put down in this game. Definitely non-toxic. Non-toxic modifiers every time. I'm sure, like, you know, after last week, I'm sure people will be more okay with this one. Because last week's was awful. Oh, yeah, that's not what you can actually think through. Oh, okay. I misunderstood the angle there. Do the light shots you have now on your, You're just gonna range pay me. Awesome. There's a lot of spore mines, or not spore mines, but skulls. Okay. Lovely modifiers only. It's a relic fist, right? Yeah, I would say the block fist is like, once you know the block fist works in this game, it is just like the easiest weapon to use ever. Because all you do is you just sit around on this class and just go bang, and you can just tank whatever they throw at you pretty much. And keep in mind, your common shots on your plasma pistol, they will do a lot of CHP recovery these days, so they up their common shot damage by 30%, so the plasma is actually way better than it was before. Way, way better. On basically every variant, so like for a long time, only the heavy plasma had semi-decent heavy shot damage, or a common shot. Hold on a second, guys.
This squall is as harmful as a summer breeze. Traitorous scum! Exterminate! Deploying bridge!
The dust storm has settled. Prayer target. Cyclones of sediment.
What's the build you're using? I missed that info. It'll be in the guide. That's just a block fist build. It's really the same build that it's been for ages because Bulwark, nothing changed in Bulwark this patch, so he is exactly the same. He just a couple new weapon options.
Launch this terminus's final train.
Wouldn't it be even more OP those two perks of boosting melee? Well, forward momentum sucks ass compared to intimidating aura. Intimidating aura is just like a free 200 damage almost in every parry.
Removal is required to commence.
Will Blood Ravens ever be fully trusted? Probably not.
I will see it through. Obstruction cleared.
Probably not.
Terminate that perversion. Eliminating this warp spawn. The Emperor's great fight, but no one's back. Unite! Banner, ready to deploy. Remove that spearman from the battle! Well done! The spearman lies slain. We have terminated their request.
Let's see if we get another Hellbrute here. I mean, we might. There's only like one more boss spawn up here anyways, like usually it's like the finale, but sometimes this game only gives you one, even on like hard strats. Now I feel like Space Marine 2 did not do a good job of like telling players that hard strats are actually over difficulty of absolute difficulty, even without modifiers, so you can encounter two bosses for that reason.
Department Terminator Weapons Transfer 363913 complete. Manifest updated.
Man, Power Fist goes bird, definitely does.
A dark path. No quarter granted to profane fight.
You're just gonna go up the fucking elevator. I can't be bothered. Fair and balanced class. God, Art Zangor is just the best shit ever. Whatever.
Keep going forward.
Ow.
Heretic sighted. Lieutenant Titus, the ordnance is loose.
Good. Deploy it.
A lot of Zangors.
Launching payload.
Two less. Okay.
A setback. Let us reevaluate our strategy.
Talassa, I have multiple swarms moving to your location. You have their attention. Deal with them swiftly. We will not get another shot at this.
Now this is the map that has two guaranteed stim spawns on it, which is nice. a lot easier to do. Like the finale here is like one right there where I picked up, and there's one way over there as well. Pick up in a second.
The odious beast of privilege.
So Twitch drops tomorrow, new armor. I mean, Twitch drops have been going on this entire time. They're going until June 11th. I could still sense Tyrannus to you. So these weeklies are supposed to be, they're handpicked by the devs. Unlike the dailies. Dailies are randomized, weeklies are handpicked by the devs. Like, this is intentionally annoying as shit. Preventus rating with 123. Hello. Howdy, howdy. We're currently doing the 2B weekly. Shortly here. Hold on 1 second. Let me properly thank the people. What were you guys playing? I imagine you're playing Space Marine 2 if you raided me. I would imagine. Yeah, Space Marine 2. How did it go? What are you guys up to? This is pretty much the only game I play. We're also doing dailies / weeklies. Yeah, we're making a guide for one right now. This one's actually pretty flippin' annoying, I gotta say.
Engine charged to 50%.
Look at her channel, Insane Heraldry. Do tell.
Link your armor to the Mechanicus device. You will need to keep close proximity to the charging station until the reset is complete.
Faulty charging system detected. Engine seer requested to perform rites of restoration.
Okay. Well, we're almost done with this one, thank God. Can't wait for Purgation to roll the poison / it's a kill stratagem. Yeah. There's gonna be some pretty obnoxious ones on Purgation. Alright guys. If you can't tell, we're a bit tired. Sorry for a bit low energy incoming raiders, but I am First Regardsman. I make Space Marine 2 content on the Twitch and YouTube. Some would call me the Space Marine 2 guy. Some people. Ow. Or the Emperor, indeed, Master Key.
Charging station renewed. Praise to the machine god for this blessed gift.
Now you're good. I too is drooping a bit. Yeah, it's just that time, you know. It's the Tuesday. What can you do?
Charging system detected. Engine seer requested to perform rites
Shit.
of restoration.
The second Monday. That's what I call my Tuesdays from now on. It's my second Monday. The second Monday. Not that, you know, like, oh, God forbid I have to go play Space Marine 2 on a Tuesday. Oh, man. Woo. Wipe the sweat off my brow. Alright, so we got here.
The charging system will remain suspended until the power is correct.
Yeah. I imagine you're a 40k channel if you're in the Space Marine 2 category, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're just taking the play. Those are usually the people who raid me. God. I do a lot of different stuff, but yeah, I'm also into 40k. That's fair. Space Marine 2 has definitely been an up-and-coming game, I'll say that. Run a lot of people. Shit. I think we should be good here.
Targeted.
What are the mods for this weekly? Well, we have Warp Storm, Posthumous Proliferation, Intelligence Slap, Imperial Fervor. So it's actually the Imperial Fervor that I've not been using this entire time, I should add. But it's pretty obnoxious, I'm not gonna lie. You were given the game by the developers and played since before launch. The game is honestly so good. I haven't played in a while. The drops came back and I was like, okay, time to play again. Yes, the drops campaigns definitely do that. And you must have the same edition my friend does, which has all the unlocks from the devs. See, I bought the $100 sucker edition of this game manually. But here we are.
Detonation in 5.
2 years later.
Brace for shockwave.
Damn near. FTG has dev buddies too. We dream. Okay. That is a guide for the weekly here, guys. I mean, the Block Power Fist will work on that pretty much all the time. And honestly, guys, you can take that build to like anything in this game. It works pretty well.
Bioscans.
There we go. Time for the 15-minute loading time. Perfect.